What is an MBO, what is an EMI, and what are growth shares?
Okay, so we start with EMI. So EMI stands for Enterprise Management Incentive. So it's a share scheme. So what it involves is an individual having the right to acquire shares in your company. So typically the way it's based around an option. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with options, but for those that aren't, it's essentially something that says you as an employee have the ability to purchase a share or a number of shares or get issued new shares in the company at a point in time in the future. Okay. You're not necessarily able to get the shares now, but you can get them in the future. The benefit for the employee is that you kind of peg what's called the exercise price, so the price they have to pay for those shares. You set that based on the value of the company today. So for the sake of argument, if the company's worth £500,000 now, that the value that they've got to pay for the shares is fixed by that figure now. Even if the company's worth £10 million in 5 years' time, they're still only paying for those shares as if it was worth £500,000.
And are they paying today?
No, they're not paying today. So, often with these enterprise management incentive schemes, they're structured so as the employee really only actually acquires the shares kind of immediately before the owner sells the business. So they're never actually putting their hand in their pocket to pay for the shares. They sell the shares and they kind of almost use the proceeds from the sale of the shares to buy them.
So there's there's no tax impact until they're actually going Correct. To get a reward.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the beauty of the EMI scheme, is that it's a scheme which is set up in the law specifically aimed at allowing smaller businesses to create schemes like this in a tax efficient way. So the employee only effectively pays tax if you structure it right when they come to sell the shares.
Perfect.
There's a nice little kicker for the employer as well, because the employer gets a tax deduction when the employee sells the shares. So
annoyingly, though, you can't. There are certain industries which are excluded from having EMI schemes, and accountancy is one of them. Yeah. So we're not allowed to do that for employees.
Yeah, we're considered to be a low risk business, apparently.
Frustrating.
Yes,
frustrating.
Absolutely.
But am I right in understanding then that some of the benefits are, if an employee leaves before the scheme has been granted, it's much easier to have a Correct. Good kind of good leave or bad leave, or just that scheme stops if they're no longer employed. So that's quite simple.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and this is the beauty of it. They're not shareholders. Mm-hmm. They only have a right to acquire the share, and you'll always have it written into the documentation that says is if you leave, then effectively, to coin a phrase, you leave with nothing.
Yeah.
You that option is cancelled.
And it can't be rolled over to somebody else. No. It's just brilliant.
It's personal to that individual.
And usually the option would come good on the sale of the business Correct. Or the sale of a tranche of the business or a 10-year. It's got a fixed timeline, is that correct?
So it can't run for longer than 10 years.
Which is great. So you can't...
It's not there forever.
Yeah.
I think,
I think that's sensible.
It is absolutely sensible, because really, from a sort of a perspective,
Well, for motivating the employee.
Absolutely. And I think one of the keys, right, is with these things is to be able to sort of sell the dream to the employee about, look, I as a business owner, I'm thinking of, heading off into the sunset in 5 years' time, for the sake of argument. So if you stick with me and really put the hard yards in for the next 5 years, that's when you get it. If it's a kind of an open-ended, well, I'm giving you some options, but who knows when I might sell.
Yeah.
Whereas the employee might think, well, I could stick around for ages, and Fred or Jane never sells the business, and therefore, I don't walk away with anything. So where's the motivation for me to be able to do that? So it's about structuring it right. It's about setting the price right, but it's also about that communication piece and making sure the employee understands what's in it for them.
Yeah.
Without that understanding, you frankly might as well not bother, really, because it doesn't actually create any kind of loyalty or buy-in or motivation.
Or value,
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay.
Exactly that.
Brilliant.